الرحيم اللهم أنت السلام وأنت السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير والحمد لله رب العالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Jamaatul Muslimin, we thank and praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all His blessings that He has bestowed upon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا بِكُم مِّن نِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Whatever blessing you have, that blessing comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One such blessing is that we find ourselves in a gathering of knowledge, sacred knowledge, that knowledge which would guide us to and guide us along the straight path. Ameen, inshaAllah. It reminds me of one of our elders. He went by the name of Baipadia. And whilst I was a student, he would often visit our school. And he used to be dressed in white. And he used to come and he had this look of sheer and pure delight on his face. And he used to recall the narration of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam that reads, إِذَا مَرَرْتُمْ بِرِيَاضِ الْجِنَانِ فَارْتَعُوا. That when you pass by the gardens of bliss, then grace to your heart's content. And then the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was asked, وَمَا هِيَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. What are these gardens of bliss? He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, حِلَقُ الذِّكْر. The gatherings of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And our scholars explain, it refers to the gatherings of knowledge, where the sacred knowledge is being imparted. And since we're talking about Baipadia, another story comes to mind. And we are really in need of such stories and such examples. It is said that one day in India he was on a train, and in the carriage he was sitting next to a Hindu gentleman. The gentleman stood up and had an intention to go to the restroom, to go to the toilet, to go to the loo. So he went and he came back. When he came back, he sat down and he had a look of utter disgust on his face. So by Padia putting two and two together, he realized that the loo is probably not as clean as it should be. And from the time I recall meeting Baipadia, he always used to have a white shawl over his shoulder. He took his white shawl, he went to the loo and he cleaned the loo. And he came back into the carriage and he said to the Hindu gentleman, the loo is ready for you to use. This Hindu gentleman accepted Islam. Yeah. If we look at these examples, we can now understand that when they say most of the companions, they accepted Islam based on the akhlaq of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because whose steps is Baipadia following? He's following the steps of the greatest caller to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Habibul Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. And we need that, particularly in this cosmopolitan society that we live in. Every day we interact with our brothers in humanity, and sometimes they don't belong, they're not our brothers in faith. They're our brothers and sisters in humanity, but they're not our brothers and sisters in faith. But we need to display that character which will endear Islam to them, like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. May Allah grant us that. Ameen. Yeah. And therefore it's important that we learn about the biographies of our scholars and their ways and their mannerisms and the way they were, so that we can mold our life according to their life. So Baipadia was always used to mention, and he had this look of sheer delight on his face when he spoke about the gardens of bliss and how you can grace to your heart's content. One would sit there and envy him of the spiritual state that he found himself in. That he looked beyond just a few gentlemen, brothers and sisters sitting in the masjid. Because this gathering has an internal and has an external. The external is the four walls and the carpet that we are sitting on. But the internal of this gathering is if you came to this gathering and your intention was to pray the Maghrib prayer, and your intention was also to acquire some degree of sacred knowledge, it was on the wings of angels that you tread.
Subhanallah.
The birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, they sought forgiveness on your behalf. Subhanallah. Allah grant us beneficial knowledge.
Ameen, ameen.
Allah bless us with knowledge that will enlighten our hearts, enlighten our minds, enlighten our every action. And in doing so, we gain closeness unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. So Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, nafa'ana Allah bihi wa bikum ameen. He described the three categories of people who acquire knowledge. So he now says to you and me, because we are on the threshold of greatness, but also this is a threshold that can lead anywhere. So he says that if you are a seeker of knowledge, be a true seeker of knowledge. And for that, in terms of his categorization, you must belong to the first category. That person who seeks knowledge for the sake of Allah, and he doesn't have worldly pursuits, he has other worldly pursuits. His objective behind acquiring this knowledge is Allah and the year after. So he says, فَكُنْ أَيُّهَا الطَّالِبْ أو seeker, be من الفريق الأول, be of the first category. وَحْذَرْ, be wary, watch yourself. Initially you could have the intention that it's for the sake of Allah, but an intention is something which is very finicky, very fickle. It can change. So therefore our scholars tell us, you check your intention before, in the course of an action, and even after you have performed the action, it is important that you don't recreate that action by attaching the wrong intention to it. Wahdar, be wary. And this is very important. A believer, one of the qualities that he has is always wary. So one of the worst qualities a person can be beset with is unmindfulness. You do something but you're unmindful. Regarding them, Allah says, "Innahum illa kal an'am bal hum adall." They are like animals, even worse, because even an animal doesn't become unwary. You know, one of our scholars give an example. Have you ever seen a mouse come out of his mouse hole? A mouse come out of his mouse hole. Have you ever seen him walking leisurely? You know, out of his mouse hole. Have you seen a mouse like that? He's always scurrying furtively. Why? Because he's mindful. He's aware. He's never unaware. Animals are never unaware. Their senses are always alert. But you and I as human beings, what do we tend to become? We tend to become unmindful. And then what happens is, the enemies, in the form of our own ego, in the form of the devil, in the form of the world around us, in the form of our fellow human beings, we become prey to them. So in terms of acquiring knowledge, we must be from the first category. And then Imam Ghazali says, وَحْذَرْ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْفَرِيقِ الثَّانِي. Be wary and be watchful that you end up from the second category. فكم من مسوف عاجله الأجل قبل التوبة فخسر وإياك ثم إياك أن تكون من الفريق الثالث. Beware, beware. And he reiterates himself that you're from the third category. And that category is, you think you're doing good. يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. Because you have some semblance to true scholars, you feel that you are a scholar, but you're only deceiving yourself. So if you think that you're a scholar, it's not going to occur to you that I need to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, be wary that you're from the third category. فَتَهْلِكْ هَلَاكًا لَا يُرْجَى مَعَهُ فَلَاحُكَ وَلَا يُنْتَظَرُ صَلَاحُكَ فَإِنْ قُلْتَ. If you're now saying that now we've put knowledge into perspective and the intention, the last part, inshallah, a few lines. فَإِنْ قُلْتَ. If you're going to ask me now, فَمَا بِدَايَةُ الْهِدَايَةِ. What are the beginnings of guidance? And that is the name of the book, the beginnings of guidance. لِيُجَرِّبَ نَفْسِي فِيهِ. In order that I may take the first step, in order that I may practice it, in order that I may experience it. فَعْلَمْ. He says, أَنَّ بِدَايَتَهَا ظَاهِرُ التَّقْوَى. That the beginning of guidance is the apparent of God consciousness. In other words, reform of the apparent, your apparent actions. God consciousness in terms of the way you conduct yourself apparently, that's the beginning, that's the door. وَنِهَايَتَهَا بَاطِنُ التَّقْوَى. And the goal is that you acquire the inner taqwa. So it starts with outer taqwa, and the result is inner taqwa. Now many times, particularly when we speak to somebody, this argument is raised. It's really a pseudo argument. The person says, don't worry about my external. The external doesn't really matter. It's what is here. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah says that if you want to reform what is here, you're going to have to start what is here in terms of your limbs, the door in. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hajj, وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ, whoever upholds the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where does it come from? فَإِنَّا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ, it is from the taqwa of the heart. So if there is taqwa in our hearts, then that taqwa within our hearts, it must find an external physical expression. And that external physical expression is with our limbs. May Allah grant us that.
Ameen.
Now, فَلَا عَاقِبَةَ إِلَّا لِلتَّقْوَى وَلَا هُدًى إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ. There's no guidance except for those who seek to be God conscious. وَالتَّقْوَى عِبَارَةٌ, and taqwa is an expression on fulfilling the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَاجْتِنَابِ نَوَاهِ, and staying away from His prohibitions. فَهُمَا قِسْمَانِ. So there are two types. When we talk about taqwa, we're talking about two things. You fulfill the command of Allah and you stay away from His prohibitions. So this entire book now, day to day, in terms of the way we start our day and the way we end our day, Imam Ghazali rahimahullah will go into detail how to adopt ظاهر التقوى, bring about taqwa in terms of the physical things that we do, and inshallah in doing that we develop a sense of taqwa within our hearts. And now inshallah we start with the al-qism al-awwal fi al-ta'at, the first section of the book that deals with obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we meet tomorrow, we may speak a bit about salawat and so forth. But if we don't speak about this tomorrow evening, and then next week and Wednesday, bi'idhnillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will start with al-qism al-awwal fi al-ta'at. We have now finished the introduction to the book. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and grant us the nur of the book. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we had an intention, Allah knows alone whether we will see the entire reading to the end of the book. May Allah make that easy for us and facilitate it for us. But if we don't, the intention of a believer is better than his action. If you and I just make the intention, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward us for the entire reading. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.